The weight of ages had settled into the bones of humanity. 3 centuries of condescension, of sidelong glances from the Cthar and their allies, of the quiet chuckle when humans entered diplomatic chambers. It had become as familiar as breathing. Dr. Eris Thorne had grown accustomed to it, like all humans had. The subtle curl of a Cthar mouth appendage, the dismissive flutter of a Vexian's wing membranes, the patronizing simplification when explaining technology that humans had invented centuries ago but had been improved beyond recognition by the superior races. Eris adjusted his archival gloves, focusing on the ancient artifact before him rather than the whispers behind his back. The Interplanetary Archive on Kepler 186F station was supposed to be neutral territory, a repository of galactic knowledge. Yet even here, humans were treated as quaint curiosities, diligent workers, yes, but hardly equals. Careful with that, human. The containment field requires a delicate touch. The voice belonged to Ambassador Forlag, the Cthar representative to the archive. His towering, insectoid frame cast a shadow over Eris's workstation. "Yes, Ambassador," Eris replied without looking up. "I've been handling Class 3 artifact for 15 years. "Of course you have." Forlag's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his kind. "Your persistence is admirable, if not always matched by competence." Eris allowed the insult to wash over him like countless others before. At 43, his dark hair now threaded with silver, he had mastered the art of professional detachment. His expertise in ancient languages and historical artifacts had earned him this position at the archive, despite the handicap of his species. The artifact before him was unremarkable at first glance. A metallic cube recovered from the ruins of an abandoned mining facility on Terra Nova, one of humanity's oldest colonies. Most dismissed it as debris, but something about the inscription pattern had caught Eris's attention. "What fascinates you about this particular piece of human refuse?" Forlag hadn't left, his compound eyes gleaming with curiosity despite his dismissive tone. "The inscription pattern," Eris murmured, more to himself than to the ambassador. "It's pre-Concord human script, but encoded in a way I haven't seen before. Your ancestors were fond of hiding things, weren't they? Secretive and paranoid, even before joining the galactic community." Eris didn't respond. His fingers traced the pattern as his neural interface scanner logged the symbols for later analysis. There was something here, something important buried beneath layers of encryption designed to look like decorative elements. Later that night, alone in his modest quarters, Eris worked without pause. The station's artificial day cycle had long since shifted to night illumination, but sleep eluded him. The symbols from the artifact danced on his holographic display, rearranging as his decryption algorithms searched for patterns. "Computer, cross-reference with Terran cryptographic standards from 2100 to 2400, he commanded. "No matches found in established databases," the computer replied, its voice pleasantly neutral. Eris frowned. If it wasn't a standard encryption, perhaps it was something personal? Someone had gone to great lengths to hide this message, using techniques that wouldn't register in official records. Try literary ciphers. Check against the pre-Concord literary canon. Minutes passed as the computer processed the request. Eris leaned back, gazing out his small viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out, there was Earth, humanity's cradle, now just another administrative sector in the galactic Concord. And somewhere beyond that were the other human colonies, Terra Nova, Elysium 7, all living under the benevolent protection of the Cthar and their allies. "Match found," the computer announced. "Cipher pattern consistent with a variation of the Dickens-Asimov method. Earth date circa 2289. A chill ran down Eris's spine. That date was significant, just decades before first contact with the Cthar, before humanity's technological golden age had been interrupted, then gradually redirected and controlled. Decrypt and display. The symbols shifted, transformed, and resolved into words in an ancient human language. Eris read silently, his heart beginning to race. The slumbering legacy awaits at the stellar sepulchre. When the mocking ceases, seek the forgotten guardians at the coordinates embedded below. Remember what we were before they came. Remember what we could be again. Below was a star chart, coordinates to a location deep in an asteroid belt in an unremarkable system. But what seized Eris's attention was the signature. For the children of Earth, when patience fails. Project Prometheus, 2,296-inch. Project Prometheus. Eris had encountered references to it in his research, a secretive initiative from Earth's final independent decades. Most records suggested it was an abandoned terraforming project, but this implied something far more significant. The slumbering legacy. A weapon? Technology? Knowledge? Whatever it was, his ancestors had hidden it away before the Kthares' rise to dominance, perhaps foreseeing the subordinate role humanity would eventually play. A soft chime at his door startled him from his thoughts. Quickly, he closed the display and composed himself. Enter. The door slid open to reveal Ambassador Forlag. The Kthares' presence seemed to fill the small room, his exoskeleton gleaming under the artificial lights. Working late, Dr. Thorne? Your kind's inefficient sleep requirements make such dedication noteworthy. Just following up on the artifact cataloging, Eris replied, keeping his voice level. Did you need something, Ambassador? Forlag moved further into the room, his compound eyes scanning the space. I've received an interesting communication from the High Council. They express unusual interest in the artifact you were examining today. It's just a decorative container. As far as I can tell, Eris lied smoothly. Likely of sentimental value to its owner. Indeed, then you've made no progress in deciphering the markings. They appear to be merely aesthetic. Forlag's mandibles clicked together in a gesture Eris recognized as skepticism. The Kthar have a saying, Dr. Thorne, what humans hide, they value. What they value, we should examine. I wasn't aware of that saying. There's much you aren't aware of. Forlag moved closer to the desk. The High Council believes artifacts from this period may contain information about certain abandoned human initiatives, scientific pursuits that were deemed unnecessary after your integration into the Concord. We benefited greatly from the Kthares' guidance. Eris recited the familiar platitude, all while his mind raced. They knew something, or at least they suspected. Indeed, yet sometimes looking backward can illuminate the path forward. Forlag's compound eyes reflected Eris's own image back at him, distorted and multiplied. If you discover anything of note in your studies, Dr. Thorne, the Council would appreciate being informed directly. For historical accuracy, of course. Of course, Ambassador. After Forlag departed, Eris sat motionless, his thoughts churning. The Kthar never showed interest in human artifacts unless they presented a potential threat. If the High Council was concerned about Project Prometheus, then perhaps the slumbering legacy was more than just a historical curiosity. Decision crystallized within him. 300 years of condescension, of being treated as lesser beings despite all human accomplishment. Perhaps the time had come, as the message suggested, for patience to fail. By morning cycle, he had formulated a plan. He would need transportation off the station, a way to reach the coordinates, and most importantly, he would need to do it without attracting Kthar attention. None of these were skills in his repertoire as an academic. Fortunately, Kepler stations served as a hub for independent traders and transport pilots. Among them was Lyra Nova, a human cargo pilot with a reputation for taking less than official jobs when the price was right. The docking Bay 9 cantina was crowded with various species when Eris entered, drawing curious glances in his archive uniform. He spotted Lyra at a corner table, her dark hair cropped short, a jagged scar running along her jawline. Unlike many humans who attempted to emulate Kthar aesthetics, she embraced a distinctly human appearance, almost provocatively so. Captain Nova, he approached cautiously. She looked up from her drink, eyes narrowing. Archive personnel don't usually slum it in Bay 9. What can I do for the Kepler Historical Society? I need discreet transportation. A bark of laughter escaped her. And I need a new plasma converter. Unless you're offering credits along with vague requests. Keep walking, scholar. Eris slid into the seat opposite her, lowering his voice. I can transfer 20,000 credits now, with the same amount upon arrival. Her expression shifted from dismissive to calculating. Where exactly is arrival? The Vega asteroid belt. To specific coordinates I'll provide once we're underway. That's Cthar restricted space, she said, interest now evident despite her caution. 40,000 won't cover the risk. 50,000 then. Half now, half upon arrival. And what's at these coordinates that's worth risking a Cthar patrol intercept? Eris hesitated. History. Perhaps humanity's future. Lyra studied him, seemingly searching for deception. Whatever she saw made her lean back with sigh. You academics are all the same, cryptic and dramatic. But credits are credits. She downed her drink. My ship, the Wanderstar, leaves in 3 hours. Bay 14. Don't be late, and don't bring anyone else. As Eris stood to leave, she added, an archive man? If this is something that'll bring Cthar enforcers down on my ship, you'd better have one hell of a legacy waiting out there. The word made him freeze momentarily. Legacy? Figure of speech, she shrugged. Whatever you're after had better be worth the risk, that's all. 3 hours later, Eris approached Bay 14 with nothing but a small pack containing essential supplies and a secure data unit with his research. As he rounded the corner, he spotted a Cthar security patrol scanning the docking manifests. Leading them was none other than Ambassador Forlag. Eris ducked back, heart pounding. They were checking departures. Somehow, Forlag suspected he was planning to leave. He needed a distraction, another way to reach the Wanderstar. A maintenance access corridor caught his eye. If he remembered the station layout correctly, it should connect to the docking bays from below. Slipping through the service entrance, Eris navigated the cramped maintenance tunnels, following the bay numbering until he reached what should be Bay 14. A small access hatch would lead up to the docking platform. As he emerged from the hatch, he found himself staring at the business end of a plasma pistol. You're late, Lyra said, lowering the weapon once she recognized him, and sneaking through maintenance tunnels. Should I be more worried than I already am? Cthar security at the main entrance, Eris explained, catching his breath. Led by Ambassador Forlag himself. Wonderful, she muttered, holstering her weapon. An ambassador-level interest in whatever you're chasing. The price just went up again. I'll pay whatever's necessary, Eris insisted. But we need to leave now. The Wanderstar was smaller than Eris had expected, a modified Terran design light freighter that had seen better days. Its hull bore the scars of numerous patches and repairs, but Lyra moved through the pre-launch sequence with the confidence of someone who knew every bolt and circuit. Strap in, she ordered, flipping switches overhead. Departure won't be smooth if they're looking for us. Can we leave without clearance? We have clearance, she smirked, tapping a display showing an approved departure plan. For agricultural supplies to Terra Nova. It'll take them a few minutes to realize we're not heading in that direction. The ship shuddered as it disengaged from the docking clamps. Eris gripped his seat as the Wanderstar pulled away from Kepler Station. Kepler Control to Wanderstar. A voice crackled over the comm. Proceed to departure vector 227 for Terra Nova route. Acknowledged, Control. Lyra responded smoothly, while plotting an entirely different course. Navigating to vector 227. They cleared the station's immediate traffic zone before Lyra suddenly banked hard, cutting power to the main thrusters and activating a secondary propulsion system that emitted significantly less energy signature. This will mask us temporarily, she explained. But once they realize we're not on course, they'll send pursuit. Your coordinates better not be too far. Eris transferred the location data to her navigation system. Her eyes widened slightly as she reviewed the destination. The stellar sepulchre? There's nothing out there but dead rocks and radiation. You've heard of it? Smuggler's legend. Some say it's haunted, ships disappear there. Others claim it's just a navigational hazard zone that fools sensors. She glanced at him curiously. What do you think is there? Something my ancestors hid away before the Cthar ascendancy. Something they called the slumbering legacy. Lyra's expression hardened. I don't do treasure hunting, archive man. If this is some wild chase for ancient human tech, that'll get us both executed for violating Cthar technology restrictions. It's more than that, Eris interrupted. It could change everything about humanity's place in the Concord. Before she could respond, the ship's proximity alert blared. A Cthar patrol vessel had just exited FDL nearby, its trajectory suggesting it was actively searching. They're faster than I expected, Lyra muttered, hands flying over the controls. Hold on. The Wanderstar dove toward a nearby moon, using its gravity to accelerate while staying in its sensor shadow. Lyra's piloting skills proved remarkable as she navigated through a debris field that would have shredded lesser pilots' ships. We need somewhere to hide until I can plot a safe jump, she said through gritted teeth. Terra Nova is closest, but it'll be the first place they look. I may know someone there who can help, Eris offered. Professor Alara Vance, my former advisor. She retired to Terra Nova years ago. A plan is better than no plan, Lyra conceded, adjusting their course. Let's hope your professor friend doesn't mind harboring fugitives. Terra Nova's surface appeared deceptively peaceful from orbit, rolling agricultural landscapes interspersed with modest settlement clusters. Unlike Earth's densely packed megalopolises, Terra Nova had been developed as a farming world, providing sustenance for humanity's expansion. Lyra landed the Wanderstar in an isolated region, camouflaging it within a stand of towering native flora. These should mask our thermal signature temporarily, she explained, powering down all non-essential systems. Where's your professor? Southern Hemisphere, Arcadia Province, Eris replied, checking coordinates on his personal device. About 300 kilometers from here. We'll need local transport then. Lyra retrieved a small case from beneath her pilot's seat, extracting what appeared to be civilian identification chips. These should get us through any settlement checkpoints. Best not to use your real credentials now that we're officially fugitives. The nearest settlement was a small agricultural community. They acquired a ground transport vehicle with surprisingly little difficulty, Lyra's smuggler connections proving valuable. As they traveled south, Eris was struck by the beauty of Terra Nova's landscape, so different from the sterile confines of Kepler Station. You ever miss it? Lyra asked unexpectedly, breaking a long silence. Miss what? Earth. Home. Whatever you consider it to be. Eris considered the question. I was born on Elysium 7. I've only visited Earth twice for academic conferences. But I miss what it represents. What we were before the Cthar. Lyra snorted. And what exactly were we? Earth history isn't my strong suit, but weren't we killing each other over resources and borders right up until first contact? We were evolving, Eris insisted. Making mistakes, yes, but learning from them. Developing our own path. The Cthar changed that, redirected us. Made us. Pets. Better pets than extinct, Lyra muttered, but there was little conviction in her tone. Professor Vance's residence was isolated even by Terra Nova standards, a modest dwelling nestled against a hillside, surrounded by native vegetation that had grown wild and untended. It looked abandoned at first glance, but as they approached, sophisticated security measures became evident to Eris's trained eye. She values her privacy, he explained to Lyra. After retiring from the archive, she became something of a recluse. Great. An antisocial academic hiding another academic from alien authorities. This plan keeps getting better. Before Eris could respond, a voice called out from hidden speakers, Identify yourselves, trespassers. Professor Vance, Eris called back. It's Eris Thorne, your former student from Kepler Archive. A long silence followed before the voice returned. Older and frielier than Eris remembered, approached the main entrance. Come alone, Eris. Not happening, Lyra interjected firmly. Where he goes, I go. Someone needs to keep your academic friend alive. After another pause, the door to the dwelling slid open. Both may enter, but weapons remain outside. Lyra reluctantly deposited her plasma pistol in a security receptacle, muttering about trusting academics under her breath. The interior of the dwelling was a stark contrast to its neglected exterior, immaculately maintained, with walls lined with physical books and artifacts that would have been priceless additions to any museum. At the center of the main room sat Professor Ilara Vance, her frail form belying the sharp intelligence in her eyes. "Eris Thorne," she said, her voice stronger in person. "I always knew you'd either make a remarkable discovery or get yourself killed. Perhaps both, judging by your companion's vigilance. This is Lyra Nova," Eris introduced. "She's helping me reach the stellar sepulchre." The name caused a visible reaction in the old professor, a straightening of her spine, a widening of her eyes. "So you found it," she whispered. The message was deciphered. Eris stepped forward. "You knew about the slumbering legacy? About Project Prometheus?" "Knew of it," she corrected. "My grandmother was among its architects." The knowledge was passed down, a contingency for when humanity's patience with subjugation finally ended. She gestured to seats across from her. "Tell me how you discovered it." Eris explained about the artifact, the decryption, and Forlag's unusual interest. As he spoke, Professor Vance's expression grew increasingly troubled. "The timing is problematic," she said when he finished. "The Cthar have been increasing restrictions on human historical research for decades. They fear something, though most haven't noticed the pattern." "What exactly is the legacy?" Lyra interjected. "I'm risking my ship and life for something neither of you will explain clearly." Vance studied Lyra carefully before responding. "It's not simply technology, though that's part of it. The legacy is a philosophy, an approach to existence the Cthar could never comprehend. Our ancestors recognized that the Cthar's logical, hierarchical mindset would eventually dominate humanity unless we preserve an alternative." "A weapon, then?" Lyra pressed. "Of a sort," Vance conceded, "but not one that destroys bodies. One that liberates minds." She turned back to Eris. "The Guardians maintain it, waiting for the right moment. They've been waiting a very long time." "Guardians?" Eris leaned forward. The message mentioned forgotten guardians. Before Vance could elaborate, an alarm sounded from a monitoring system. Security footage showed a Cthar shuttle landing near the property boundary. "They found us." Lyra was already moving toward the door. "We need to leave. Now." "Too late for that." Vance activated a hidden panel in her desk. "They'll have the perimeter surrounded. There's another way." She turned to Eris. "The legacy is real, more powerful than you imagine. Find the Guardians, show them humanity is ready. They'll recognize you." "Recognize me? How?" Vance pressed a small device into his hand. "This contains coordinates, more precise than what you found, and authentication codes. The Guardians will know you come with my blessing." She looked at both of them intently. "There's an escape tunnel beneath this dwelling. It will lead you to a small craft I've maintained for emergencies." "You're coming with us?" Eris insisted. "No." Her refusal was firm. "I'll delay them, give you time. My role in this story ends here, but yours is just beginning." She pressed another button, revealing a hidden doorway in the floor. "Go. Find the legacy. Remember what we were before they came." The echo of her words from the ancient message wasn't lost on Eris. "Professor, go," she commanded, with a strength that belied her frail appearance. Humanity has endured 3 centuries of mockery and subjugation. It's time that ended. Lyra grabbed Eris's arm, pulling him toward the opening. "The best way to honor her is to succeed," she said quietly. The last glimpse Eris had of Professor Vance was her composed figure, sitting straight-backed in her chair, facing the door as distant pounding indicated the Cthar forces had arrived. The tunnel led them to a concealed hangar containing a small vessel unlike any Eris had seen before, sleeker than modern designs, with lines that suggested both aesthetics and functionality had been considered equal priorities. It bore no registration markings or identification. "This doesn't look like any human or Concord design," Lyra observed, running her hand along the hull. "Because it predates the Concord," Eris realized. "This is from humanity's independent era." "Can you fly it?" "I'm theorizing it's from humanity's independent era, not claiming I can pilot it," Eris replied dryly. Lyra sighed. "Move aside, academic. Let's see if my universal pilot interfaces work on antiques. To their surprise, the ship's systems activated immediately upon their entry, a gentle hum indicating power systems coming online. A neutral voice spoke. Identity verification required. Eris hesitated, then placed Vance's device into a receptacle that seemed designed for it. Lights pulsed along the interior of the craft. Identity confirmed. Welcome, Professor Vance's designee. Please state destination. The Stellar Sepulchre. Eris responded. Coordinates from this device. Coordinates acknowledged. Please secure for departure. The hangar doors above them began to open, revealing night sky. Lyra rushed to the pilot's position, but found the controls unresponsive. It's automated, she realized. The ship knows where to go. I hope so. Eris murmured as the craft rose smoothly into the air. Because I suspect we have company. Sure enough, as they cleared the hangar, sensors indicated Cthar vessels converging on Professor Vance's dwelling. One broke off, turning toward their position. They've spotted us, Lyra confirmed, frantically trying to access weapon systems. Pursuit detected, the ship's voice announced calmly. Initiating evasion protocols. What followed was a demonstration of flying that left both humans pressed into their seats. The craft moved with impossible speed and maneuverability, executing patterns that would have torn apart most vessels. The pursuing Cthar ship fired repeatedly, but couldn't maintain a target lock. This technology, Lyra gasped between high G turns. It's beyond anything in the Concord registry. Because the Cthar suppressed it, Eris replied, understanding dawning. They didn't guide our development, they stunted it. After several minutes of aerial combat, their craft suddenly accelerated to FTL speeds without the usual preparation sequence, leaving the Cthar vessel far behind. FTL transition complete, the ship announced. Estimated arrival at Stellar Sepulchre, 6 hours. Life support optimizing for human occupancy. Refreshments available in rear compartment. Lyra stared at Eris. Refreshments? What kind of escape ship offers refreshments? The kind built by a civilization that was far more advanced than we've been led to believe, Eris replied softly. One that the Cthar feared enough to subjugate through diplomacy rather than force. The 6-hour journey gave them time to explore the vessel's database, though much of it was encrypted beyond their access level. What they did find confirmed Eris's growing suspicion. Humanity's technological development had been deliberately redirected and suppressed following first contact with the Cthar. Look at this, he showed Lyra a comparative timeline. In the decades before Cthar contact, human technological development was accelerating exponentially. Neural interfaces, quantum computing, consciousness transfer research. Consciousness transfer, Lyra interrupted. That's prohibited technology throughout the Concord. Exactly. The Cthar banded, claiming ethical concerns. But these records suggest we were close to a breakthrough. Eris scrolled through more data. After integration into the Concord, human research was guided toward areas that complemented Cthar's strengths rather than competed with them, making us useful subordinates instead of potential rivals. Lyra concluded, a new anger evident in her voice. My grandmother used to tell stories about the lost potential of humanity. I thought they were just bitter old tales. They were memories, Eris corrected gently. And soon, perhaps, they'll be our future again. Approaching Stellar Sepulchre, the ship announced. Prepare for arrival protocols. The view outside shifted as they exited FTL, revealing a vast asteroid field surrounding a collapsed star, a stellar graveyard that would appear unremarkable to most observers. Yet as they approached, pattern emerged from chaos. The asteroids were positioned with subtle artifice, creating a natural camouflage around something at the center. I don't believe it, Lyra whispered as the central structure came into view. It was a space station of impossible size, a megastructure built into and around a massive asteroid. Its design was both organic and geometric, with no external lights or obvious docking ports. To most sensors, it would appear as just another large body in the asteroid field. The greatest achievement of pre-Concord humanity, Eris breathed. Hidden in plain sight for 3 centuries. Initiating approach sequence, their ship announced. Guardian authentication commencing. A beam of light scanned their vessel from an unseen source on the station. For long moments, nothing happened. Then, like a flower blooming, a section of the station's surface parted, revealing a docking bay large enough to accommodate vessels many times their size. Authentication accepted, the ship confirmed. Welcome to Prometheus Station. As they docked and the bay doors closed behind them, Eris and Lyra exchanged glances of mingled apprehension and wonder. Whatever happens next, Lyra said quietly, we've already proven the Cthar lied about who we were. And who we could be again, Eris added, completing the phrase from the ancient message. The ship's exit ramp descended, revealing a pristine docking bay that showed none of the decay one would expect after centuries of abandonment. The air that greeted them was fresh, perfectly calibrated for human comfort. Hello, visitors, a voice echoed through the bay. I am Orion, custodian of Prometheus Station. Please proceed to the central chamber for evaluation. Evaluation, Lyra murmured, hand instinctively reaching for the weapon she'd been forced to leave behind. Standard protocol, the voice responded, apparently having no difficulty hearing her. The legacy awakens only for worthy inheritors. Illuminated pathways appeared on the floor, guiding them deeper into the station. The corridors they traversed were vast, designed with an aesthetic beauty that had long since disappeared from utilitarian Concord architecture. Walls displayed artistic representations of human history, achievements, and potential futures, some realized, others forever deferred by the Cthar interference. This place is fully operational, Eris observed. 300 years, and it looks like it was completed yesterday. Self-maintaining systems were perfected before contact, Orion explained, its voice following them. What the Cthar classified as prohibited autonomous technology was simply standard in humanity's final independent decade. The central chamber, when they reached it, took Eris's breath away. It was a vast spherical space with a suspended platform at its center. Surrounding the platform were countless strands of light that seemed to form a three-dimensional web throughout the chamber. The Global Consciousness Network Central Hub, Orion announced as they stepped onto the platform. The heart of the slumbering legacy. What is it? Eris asked, reaching out toward the nearest strand of light, which pulsed in response to his proximity. The culmination of human potential, a system allowing instantaneous sharing of knowledge, emotion, and computational capacity across vast distances. A technology based on the understanding that human consciousness is our greatest strength, not a weakness to be overcome, as the Cthar believe. This is what they feared, Eris realized. Not our weapons or resources, but this, our capacity for connection, for empathy combined with intelligence. Precisely, Orion confirmed. The Cthar evolutionary path led to perfect logical processing but limited emotional capacity. They function as highly advanced individuals, but cannot truly connect. Humans evolved differently, balancing emotion and logic, individual identity and collective action. The GCN enhances these natural strengths. And this was operational before contact? Lyra asked, circling the platform cautiously. In prototype form, connecting major Earth research centers. The architects of Project Prometheus recognized the Cthar threat upon first contact, not as conquerors, but as subtle subverters. They created this station and transferred the technology here before the Cthar could discover its full implications. How does it work? Eris asked. That, said Orion, is what your evaluation will determine. Before either could respond, the light strand surrounding them intensified, enveloping both humans in a cocoon of radiance. Eris felt a gentle pressure in his mind, like fingers leafing through pages of a book, examining, assessing, but not invasive. Within the light, he saw glimpses of his own memories, but also flashes of lives not his own. The passion of researchers pursuing forbidden knowledge, the quiet resistance of humans who recognize their subjugation, the suppressed anger of generations raised to believe they were inherently inferior to the Cthar. When the light receded, both Eris and Lyra remained standing, though Lyra's eyes shone with unshed tears. "You've both been evaluated and found worthy," Orion announced. "Dr. Eris Thorne, your dedication to preserving human knowledge despite Cthar restrictions shows a resilience the legacy requires. Lyra Nova, your outward rebellion masks a deeper commitment to human dignity that resonates with the legacy's purpose." "So what happens now?" Lyra asked, wiping her eyes discreetly. "Now," Orion replied, "you must decide whether to awaken the legacy fully. Be warned, once awakened, it cannot be easily returned to slumber. The Cthar will respond with all their might once they understand what has been unleashed." Before either could respond, alarm signals blared throughout the chamber. "Cthar vessels detected approaching the sepulchre," Orion reported. "A destroyer-class ship leads several combat crafts. They appear to have tracked your vessel." "Commander Krell," Lyra spat. "He must have followed our FDL signature. Station defenses are substantial, but designed for concealment rather than extended combat," Orion continued. "I recommend immediate action." Eris found himself suddenly thrust into a decision he'd never anticipated making. Academic curiosity had led him to the artifact, then to Vance, then here. But now he faced a choice that would affect all of humanity. "If we activate the legacy," he asked carefully, "what exactly happens?" "The GCN will reconnect with dormant nodes planted throughout human colonies 3 centuries ago," Orion explained. "Those connected will experience a significant expansion of consciousness, shared knowledge, enhanced processing, emotional resonance. It also allows for subtle interference with Cthar systems, as their technology relies on principles the GCN can manipulate. And the risks? Beyond Cthar retaliation, the human mind wasn't designed for such connection, so may be overwhelmed initially. And there are ethical implications to a technology that influences both thought and emotion." "We don't have time for a philosophical debate," Lyra interrupted, pointing to a display showing the approaching Cthar vessels. "They're launching fighters. Make a decision, academic." Eris closed his eyes briefly, remembering Professor Vance's words. "Remember what we were before they came. 3 centuries of mockery, of condescension, of being treated as lesser beings despite all human achievement." He opened his eyes. "Activate the legacy. Not fully, not yet. Just enough to defend this station and show them we're not what they believe us to be." "Partial activation sequence initiated," Orion confirmed. "Please place your hands on the central interface." Both humans pressed their palms against a panel that rose from the platform. The strands of light surrounding them pulsed faster, brighter, extending outward through the walls of the chamber and presumably the station itself. Eris gasped as his consciousness expanded. He could feel Lyra's presence beside him, not just physically, but mentally. Her courage, her anger, her hidden hope. Beyond her, he sensed Orion's vast, patient intelligence, and further still, faint echoes of human minds throughout the nearby systems, dormant connections waiting to be fully awakened. "The Cthar ships are engaging station defenses," Orion reported, though Eris somehow knew this already through the connection. "Their weapons systems are sophisticated, but vulnerable to GCN interference." "Show me how." Eris thought rather than spoke, and immediately understood. The GCN allowed him to perceive the Cthar targeting systems as patterns of energy and information, patterns that could be disrupted with precise countersignals. Working through the GCN, Eris sent pulses of interference that caused the Cthar weapons to misfire or lose lock. He could sense the confusion on the enemy vessels, their inability to comprehend how their superior technology was failing. "Lyra," he said aloud, breaking from his technological communion briefly. "Your ship, can you use it to distract the destroyer? Draw its attention while I work on its subsystems?" Her eyes, glowing slightly with the same light that filled the chamber, met his. "I can do better than that." Through their shared consciousness, he felt her tactical planning, bold, risky, but potentially devastating to the Cthar formation. Orion, "Prepare Lyra's vessel for immediate launch," Eris commanded, "and give her control of any defensive drones this station possesses." Acknowledged. The AI seemed almost pleased with their quick adaptation to the GCN's capabilities. Lyra squeezed Eris's shoulder before racing back toward the docking bay, their minds remaining connected even as physical distance grew between them. Through her eyes, Eris watched as she piloted her small craft out of the station, accompanied by a dozen autonomous defense drones that had lain dormant for centuries. The Kthar, focusing their main weapons on the station, were unprepared for an attack from behind. Lyra's Wanderstar, enhanced by the station's advanced technology, moved with impossible precision, drawing Kthar fire while the drones targeted engines and weapon emplacements. Simultaneously, Eris used the GCN to penetrate the Kthar ship's communications, creating false orders and system failures. The destroyer, commanded by Krell himself, Eris could somehow sense the Kthar commander's presence, attempted to regroup its forces, but the combination of physical attacks and electronic warfare proved overwhelming. One by one, the smaller Kthar vessels lost power or weapons capability. "They're retreating," Eris announced, sensing the shift in Kthar tactics before it was visible on any display. "The destroyer is covering the withdrawal of the damaged ships. This victory will be temporary," Orion cautioned. "Once they report what they've encountered, the Kthar will return with a fleet. Then we use the time we have," Eris decided. "Orion, prepare for full legacy activation. We need to reach all human settlements before the Kthar can suppress the information." "Are you certain, Dr. Thorne? Full activation will alert every Kthar in the Concord to our existence. There will be no turning back." Eris thought of Professor Vance, who had likely sacrificed herself to give them this chance. Of generations of humans living as second-class citizens in a galactic society that should have been a partnership of equals. "Humanity's patience has reached its limit," he said firmly. "Activate the legacy. All of it." The light strands pulsed one final time before exploding outward in a silent wave of energy that Eris could feel propagating through space itself. Across human settlements throughout the Concord, dormant GCN nodes activated, connecting minds that had never known their true potential. Through the network, Eris could sense the awakening, confusion giving way to understanding, then to determination. 3 centuries of suppressed resentment crystallized into purpose as the truth of Kthar manipulation became clear to all. When Lyra returned to the central chamber, her face was transformed by what she'd experienced through the GCN during full activation. "It's happening," she said, voice filled with wonder. "Everywhere. Terra Nova, Earth, Elysium 7. People are waking up. And they're angry. Not just angry," Eris corrected. "Coordinated. For the first time in centuries, humanity is acting with one purpose." Orion's voice interrupted their moment of triumph. "Kthar communication channels are experiencing unprecedented activity. They're attempting to enact emergency protocols to contain what they're calling the human contagion. They won't succeed," Eris replied with certainty. "The GCN is already disrupting their systems, spreading the truth throughout the Concord. Other species are beginning to question the Kthar narrative." "This is only the beginning," Orion warned. "The Kthar will not surrender their dominance without a fight. They may resort to extreme measures. Then we must act quickly," Eris decided. "Lyra, we need to coordinate with the resistance that's forming. Orion, continue expanding the GCN's influence. If the Kthar want to fight, they'll discover that 3 centuries of mockery have created an adversary they never truly understood." As reports filtered in through the GCN, the scale of what they had unleashed became clear. On Terra Nova, human workers had seized control of crucial agricultural processing centers. On Elysium 7, the spaceport now belonged to a hastily organized human militia. Earth itself, long the showcase of successful integration, had become the center of the most sophisticated electronic warfare campaign the Concord had ever witnessed, with Kthar systems failing across the planet. Through it all, the GCN shared knowledge, coordinated actions, and nullified the Kthar's traditional advantages of superior individual intelligence and technology. Humanity's unique capacity for emotional connection, amplified by technology the Kthar had feared enough to suppress, was proving more powerful than 3 centuries of subjugation. Ambassador Forlag is addressing the Concord Council, Orion reported, projecting the transmission into the central chamber. The Kthar ambassador, his exoskeleton polished to a ceremonial shine, stood before representatives of all Concord species. His mandibles clicked in agitation as he spoke. The human insurgency represents an existential threat to Concord stability, Forlag declared. Their prohibited technology allows mind control and system corruption on an unprecedented scale. The High Council has authorized the use of the Purifier weapon against Terra Nova as a necessary demonstration of consequences. Gasps arose from many council representatives. The Purifier was a planet-killing weapon supposedly decommissioned after the Concord's formation. "He's bluffing," Lyra insisted, but Eris could sense her uncertainty. "No," he said grimly. "The Kthar would rather destroy a world than lose control." Orion, what do we know about the Purifier? Classified Kthar technology, ostensibly dismantled after the Zashin conflict. However, GCN scans indicate an active weapons platform in orbit around the Kthar homeworld that matches probable specifications. How soon could it reach Terra Nova? Approximately 18 hours at maximum FTL. Eris closed his eyes, accessing the full breadth of the GCN. Through it, he could sense the growing resistance across human worlds, but also the fear as news of the Purifier spread. If Terra Nova fell, the psychological impact could shatter the newfound unity. "We need allies," he realized. Orion, which Concord species have shown sympathy to human concerns. The Vexians and Norali have historically maintained trade relations with humans outside Kthar oversight. The Jiril have extensive cultural exchanges with human artists. All 3 have representatives on the Concord Council who have questioned Kthar policies in the past. Send them everything. The full history of Kthar suppression, evidence of our technological capabilities before contact, details of how the GCN actually works. Show them we're not attempting domination, just liberation. What about the Purifier? Lyra pressed. "Even with allies, we can't stop a planet killer in 18 hours. Eris turned to her, an idea forming. "We don't need to stop it. We need to control it." "Explain." "The Purifier's technology, advanced, yes, but still systems and code. If the GCN can disrupt Kthar targeting systems, perhaps it can do more with their ultimate weapon." He turned to Orion. "We need to focus the entire network on understanding and penetrating the Purifier systems. Every connected human mind working on one problem. The computational and intuitive power would be unprecedented," Orion acknowledged. "But the risk is equally great. Failure would mean Terra Nova's destruction, and success would end the Kthar threat without bloodshed," Eris countered. "It's worth the attempt." For the next 16 hours, the GCN became a singular organism focused on one goal. Humans across the Concord contributed their specialized knowledge. Engineers understanding power systems, programmers identifying code vulnerabilities, military minds developing strategic approaches. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts continued with potential allies, the truth of humanity's subjugation swaying opinion in the Concord Council. As the Purifier weapon platform entered the Terra Nova system, escorted by the largest Kthar fleet assembled in a century, humanity held its collective breath. The GCN connected billions of minds in tense anticipation. Their powering weapons systems, Orion reported. Target lock initiating on Terra Nova's northern continent. "Now," Eris commanded, channeling the full power of the GCN toward the Purifier. What followed was a silent battle of wills and technology. Through the network, Eris could sense the Kthar operators' confusion as their systems responded erratically. Commands were entered only to be subtly altered. Targeting coordinates shifted microscopically but significantly. "They've detected the intrusion," Orion warned. "Secondary protocols engaging." "Push harder," Eris urged the network, feeling the strain as billions of connected minds focused their combined will. The purifier's energy core began to glow, visible even from distant observation points. It was charging for discharge. "They're firing," Lyra cried. The weapon released its devastating energy, but instead of striking Terra Nova, the beam twisted in space, turning back upon the Cathar fleet itself. Not a direct hit, but close enough to disable dozens of vessels with its peripheral energy. Through the GCN, a cheer rose from billions of human throats, joined by the voices of allies who had witnessed the Cathar's willingness to commit genocide. "The Concord Council is voting," Orion announced. Emergency session called by the Vexian ambassador. The vote was swift and decisive. The Cathar High Council was stripped of leadership authority within the Concord, pending investigation of historical suppression and current atrocities. A coalition fleet comprising Vexian, Norali, and newly liberated human vessels moved to secure the purifier and remaining Cathar military assets. In the aftermath, as the GCN's influence stabilized and expanded, the true scope of what had been accomplished became clear. Humanity had not only liberated itself, but had transformed the power structure of the entire Concord. The balance that had favored Cathar domination for centuries had been irrevocably altered. 3 months later, Eris stood on an observation deck of the renamed Legacy Station, watching ships arrive for the first Concord summit not dominated by Cathar interests. Beside him, Lyra, now Admiral Nova of a newly commissioned human defense fleet, studied the same scene. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you first decoded that artifact?" she asked. "Never," Eris admitted. "I was seeking knowledge, not revolution. Sometimes they're the same thing." She nodded toward a Cathar diplomatic vessel approaching under escort. "Even they're adapting. The younger generation seems genuinely interested in cooperation rather than domination." 3 centuries of mockery taught us patience," Eris observed. "Perhaps defeat will teach them humility." As they watched, a Vexian representative approached, wings fluttering in their species' gesture of respect. "Dr. Thorne, Admiral Nova," the Vexian greeted them. "The Council is assembling. As the Awakeners of the Legacy, your presence is requested." As they followed the Vexian toward the Council chambers, Eris reflected on the journey that had brought them here. What had begun with an ancient message had culminated in humanity's reclamation of its destiny. The patience of centuries had indeed snapped, but what emerged was not vengeance, but the opportunity for genuine partnership among equals. The mocking had ceased, replaced by something humanity had sought since its earliest days among the stars: respect.